Okay, let me just try this here. I'm a little late because I had some connection issues right for the stream, but it should be all good now. I also placed my microphone in the new spot, so the audio should be either different or clear, I hope, because now it's like right in front of me, right next to the camera, about like 20 centimeters that way, and before I had it over here at this point. So now it's a little bit more on the axis if I'm actually talking to the camera, I hope. Maybe if I'm talking to the chat it's a little bit worse now, but I'll have to see how that works. I'm just going to use this essentially as a test stream for that. And maybe I'll move it to the other side of the camera or twist it a little bit, just to see if I can get a better quality for the stream while we're still here. In terms of the microphone. Because I noticed in the last few streams it distorted a little bit. So I hope that I've also fixed that up a little bit. En Roll, how are you doing? Welcome. Zet moest naar mijn creditcard. Moest mijn creditcard cancelen, want het telt mee voor mijn hypotheek. Even kijken hoe ik anders kan Patreoneren. Dat is een mooie manier van het zeggen. In principe, als je Patreon bent, en je maakt een betaling, dan heb je nog een maand om dingen te updaten als dat moet. Als je jezelf de ding wil behouden. Maar anders denk ik dat je gewoon op hetzelfde account een nieuwe payment method kan instellen. En dan zou het moeten werken. Ik weet het niet. Om eerlijk te zijn met al dat soort platforms, is het al snel zo dat ik als de beheerder van een pagina niet kan zien wat de gewone gebruiker krijgt te zien. Dus ik kan eigenlijk niet zozeer zeggen hoe als het werkt voor jullie kant. Ik kan alleen zien wat het voor mijn kant is. Anyway, I'm going to switch back to English so that everybody can enjoy the stream. What we're doing today, of course, is feedback. As you can see, there's already 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tracks for me to listen to. If you want to submit your own tracks, you can do that, but of course you need to read the rules before posting. But for now, we're just going to sit here and listen to some music, and then I'll give my thoughts on it and give you guys some feedback. Starting with Techno und Acid 2 by Jointler. I have set up all of the analyzers and such, so it should be all good. It just needs to load the track for a second. There we are. Can be the case that I've already heard this once. I feel like I recognize this. No, it's I don't know if I've heard this before. This isn't sounding like something I've already heard in a previous installment of the stream. It's very low here. It's basically just below 1000 Hertz here. It would be nice if it maybe slowly opens up a little bit more, that ARP that you have. Kick is nice and clean, I like that. I'm not sure I'm a fan of this ARP as a main element in the drop. I liked it in the intro. But it sounds maybe a little bit too light for the kick drum that you have. You know, techno being pretty aggressive and doesn't include a lot of happy melodies. Bit of a change would be nice sometime. It feels like this melody has been playing for a while now. I like this part. The way that you transition into it is nice. Again, at this point it's starting to sound a little bit boring. Maybe a few atmospheres, maybe a few extra layers, something like that. Maybe just in general a bit more movement on the acid line would be nice. Okay, so that's where it ends. That's actually the end of the file. I hope you continue writing it because there's some cool ideas in there. I like it. The art needs some grit. Yeah, that first sound needed a little bit of extra either grit to it or just replaced by a different sound and then just only using it in the intro. That could be nice as well. It depends a little bit on the style that you're going for. But overall, I like the idea. I like where it's going. Next up we have, I need to, there we are, move the screen a little bit like that. Information Overload is the next track by Hummus Harif. I hope I didn't mispronounce that incorrectly, but I think I did, as always. Oh, I can play it from here, of course. A little bit of a slower progressive idea here. Feels like the rhythm of the main synth isn't really connected to what the bass line is doing. I don't like how suddenly the snares come in like that. What I would do is, if you want to do that where you first have the snare at the lower rhythm and then at the higher rhythm, just make 2 tracks for the 2 different rhythms that you want to have, and then you can like glide the second rhythm, the faster rhythm, into that. Seems to me like he cleaned around the bass line, or cleaned around the kick, but not the bass line. Like we can see, I mean it's not no bleeding, but this is enough to get away with. This is okay in terms of how it's actually moving the transient, but in the bass line I can see a lot of bleeding from one note into the next. Clap is a little on the loud side. Bassline is playing so low here that it cannot be reproduced by any sound system there. You're going to lose a little bit of weight from the sub bass when it's playing so low as 30 Hz. Maybe that's something to consider. I feel like overall the kick hasn't really come through this track. I think maybe part of that has to do with the length, but that is okay because this is a little bit of a slower track. But also it could just be a little bit louder, it could just get like 3-4 dB more in volume. Can I still send music for feedback? Yes, of course. Exclamation point feedback should get you into my Discord server where you can submit as long as you abide by the rules that are in the channel. The main issue that I have with this track is that it's lacking a little bit in terms of different elements in there. It feels like they're all the same elements playing at different octaves, like this melodic plucky sound over here. Hello Mindy. Welcome, welcome. Very nice bases to work further out. I agree. The main thing that, as I said, which is really bothering me about this track is the fact that every main element sounds the same. Like it's all the same pluck, I feel. Maybe it's playing different melodies and it's playing different rhythms and such, but it's all the same sound. It would be nice to hear some more sound design throughout the track and a little bit more play with different rhythms and such, and just different ideas in general. Maybe some sounds that are just playing the root notes that aren't necessarily playing a melody. It now all feels very the same, essentially. Very mono track. Yeah, not even in the sense of the track itself being mono. Maybe that is also the case. To be honest, I didn't really focus on that. It sounded okay to me. It didn't sound off to me. The main way I would say it's mono is in that it's all very similar. I guess that is saying it's like a monotone track, in the same way that a person who speaks at the same pitch constantly is called monotone. In that they're not really flowing, I guess, with the way that they're speaking. Mono with the sounds, yeah. That's a good way to describe it. Next up we have Ben de Gerrig. I'm not sure how I should pronounce that. The original idea for this track was back in 2021, one of the first I wrote after taking a multi-year break from producing. This is a brand new version which follows the flow of the original, but is better mixed and has better sound design, etc. Sorry, I'm just bad at reading. So this is Helios by Ben de Gerrig. Bit more of a housey feeling here. Let's see where this goes. more normal trance feeling, I guess. I can already see, even with all of the other things going on top of the waveform, that you're massively bleeding into your kick and probably also in your other bass note. That's definitely something that you want to fix. I don't like how loud a lot of the effects are. It feels like I'm constantly either in a riser or in a downlifter. I would personally have the top melody come out more. The plug that goes dun 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 dun. That sound should probably come out more at the expense of the other sound. A little bit of a pumping effect on the chords, on the saw chords, if the kick is coming in, would be nice as well. Now they sound like really overpowering. Yeah, they're becoming way too loud here. Your bassline also has the issue of going down into frequencies that cannot be reproduced by any sound system. They're going down into 30 Hz, maybe even 25 Hz sometimes. With the bassline, I think in the last note here. Yeah, this is going close to like 26 Hz, which no system is going to be able to reproduce. They're going to lose a lot of power there. Usually, I wouldn't recommend going below 40 Hz. Nice melody though, eternal tech house trance. Yeah, a bit of a different genre than what we used to, but I like it. Personally, there's a hard knocking effect in the mid-range on the main melody that I will probably remove. I feel like that are some of these strong spikes here. Mix definitely needs to be better here, because here you can hear the chords again overpowering everything. I like the new asset line, but I don't like that it's layered on top of the old asset line that's still playing. So I would probably not play that old asset line anymore, so that you just have the main asset line in here. Maybe I would just mute that element altogether so that all of the other elements can come through more. I think I already mentioned the effects being quite loud and also quite long. Like it always feels like you're in an effect. The main way I would fix it is maybe just lower them by 5-6 dB to start off with. And try not to overuse these kind of splash downs and rises ups like that. I believe there's now 3 different melodies playing at the same time, which is a little bit much. overall, I like the idea presented in this track. It definitely needs a lot more work before I would consider it finished. Maybe one final thing to consider is that asset line, the top asset line, is almost entirely mono, if not entirely mono. So make it a little bit more stereo to get like a wider, bigger sound out of it. Just elaborate the focuses of the melodies. To be honest, at some points I felt like there was too much going on in the track. Really, when you want to drive home a melody like that, and the way you had what felt like slightly strange counter melodies sometimes below it, what I would do is take one of those melodies, that one asset melody that was a little bit lower, and to be honest, just mute it and not play it anywhere. And then focus on making either the plucky synth or the melodic asset line, that higher asset line, either of those stand out in any part when you're mixing this stuff. To be honest, I think that would be the best approach here, to make sure that it's not too confusing. Because it felt like sometimes you were trying to put too many ideas on top of each other. I hope that makes sense. Okay, then next up we have 110 over here. Hey, I would love your feedback on this track of mine. I have recently started producing tracks, still learning mixing and mastering. Veiled depths 150 BPM. Sounds interesting. Very loud ambient sound here. That should probably be turned down. Have your other elements come out of it a little bit more.
It's music time!
Kick and bass is very quiet here. It still sounds like the intro. Like you're building up to something.
Let me see you get nasty now.
This is a very strange track. I feel like there's no bass line in here. To be honest, it feels a little bit all over the place. The mix is entirely off. Like the bass line isn't present whatsoever, the kick barely punches through, and a lot of the sounds sound very stereo, very strangely placed, I would say. Like that riser overpowering everything, and before we had the vocals overpowering everything. It feels like the hi-hats aren't in sync with the kick drum over here for some reason. Everything is very strongly sidechained, which also gives the track a very strange groove. Hello chat, hello projector. Hello, how are you doing? I was trying to pronounce that, but I'm not going to. Sweep, also welcome. Very loud effects here. That's something I hear very often when you have just standard uplifters and downlifters. Those effects become very, very loud. Here in the break, the track is as loud as in the drop, which is a very strange decision. I think I can hear some kind of bass line playing in here, but it doesn't really have any mid-range, any sub. That is sounding very strange. And then the sidechaining is something that I don't understand. Why this sidechaining is so strong and seemingly even out of sync with the kick in the track. Like, it sounds like the sidechaining, looking at it here, goes down like right after the kick. So it still plays on the kick and then it gets chopped off, and then here the sidechain opens up again. Just in terms of the volume, of course, not in terms of the frequency. Now everything is a little bit more centered again, which is better. Before we had that very stereo sound. Now I like this a little bit more, at least in terms of the stereo wave. I do have to say I don't like the almost distorted sound of the kick drum. It sounds like there's gritting here, but that may be just the synth still playing. To be that honest, I can hear that this person is still starting out in music production. It feels like it just kind of goes on forever and ever like this, and it doesn't really feel like it's built up with a purpose, which is fine if you're just starting out. At that point you don't really know what you're doing yet, and you're just trying different things out and seeing what sticks. So in that regard I would continue to keep experimenting, but try to find a couple of reference tracks of sounds that you like and see if you can replicate some of the ideas that are done in that reference track, and see how you can get your sound to sound closer to what is happening in the reference tracks. Because if you put this next to any other side track, you'll hear that there's some very strange things going on. It also feels like it's constantly distorting or saturating, even though it's not hitting any form of limiter here, so it feels like you're pushing it into a limiter and then pushing down the ceiling maybe. Or maybe you're saturating it in a strange way. Now some of the synths in the mid-range become entirely mono here, which I'm not a fan of. I like that you were going a little bit more mono than the beginning, but the stereo field of this track is a little bit all over the place. Like in the breakdown that we heard before, it was going over here, where it's definitely going to cancel with itself in mono, which is not something that you want. again, just some very loud effects. Definitely a bit of a strange production. Definitely you can hear that you're still beginning out with production. But continue going. As I said, the biggest tip that I can give you is just reference a lot. When I say reference a lot, I have done for, I would say, the last year and a half now, just listening to professional sounding music at least for half an hour almost every day of my life on the system that I'm working on. And that just really helps getting your ears in check for what the music is supposed to sound like. So that's definitely something that I would recommend for you. Either way, let's move on to the next person here. Simulatra Music. Simulatra Music. Yeah, I pronounced that right. Perfect. Height, the ooze, 154 in F, and it's, I guess, version number 10.
What do they do with these things after we seal them?
I hear they dump them in an abandoned chalk mine and cover them with cement.
I hear they're sending them to one of those southern states where the governor's a crook.
Either way, I'm sleeping good tonight.
Well, sir, where should we dump this fast? Playground?
No, all those bold children are arousing suspicion. To the park!
Bit of a strange transition with the kick and bass delay and the kick and bass that you have coming in here.
I think it's old, sir.
That's ridiculous. The last three helped 9 drums.
I like this intro though, there's a lot going on here.
Agent Malone, Environmental Protection Agency. Some Boy Scouts stumbled on your little game of hide the ooze.
Kick and bass looks like it's resampled, which is always nice to see.
That's ridiculous.
One of the things I would recommend is lowering the volume of the kick and bass in the intro when you're filtering it in by maybe 3 dB. Just so that when the main kick and bass comes in the drop, it has a little bit more impact.
Mr. Burns, in light of your unbelievable contempt for human life, this court finds you $3 million.
Smithers, my wallet's in my right front pocket.
Maybe these atmospheres are a little bit on the loud side
How
here.
does it statue of justice?
So,
Do you have a Discord or anything where do we go for submissions?
Some Boy Scouts stumbled on your little game of hide the ooze.
There. There's a lot going on in this track over here, I like it.
And I come from someplace far away. Yes, that will do. Anyway, I say we invest that money back in the nuclear plant.
I don't know, I'm a fan of this key change that you're doing here. Overall, I think the kick and bass can use a little bit extra power, maybe just by turning down the synth a couple of dB. Here the difference between kick and bass volume is also nice, but I felt like with the sliding bass that you had before, that little alternative kick or alternative bass segment, I guess. I felt like the volume of the bass was a little bit low. Here again, if we're going to have kick and bass into a build-up or something like that, lower it by a couple of dB. I would say over here maybe like 5 dB, and then when the drop hits, they're going to have more power when they come in. Welcome to the stream. I may have glossed over your message earlier. Said it was going to rain today, but it hasn't started yet.
Boy Scouts stumbled on your little game of hide the ooze.
I like that. The file is still going for me, but that seems to be the end of it. Yeah, this is just silence at the end there. I like that. There was a lot of cool things going on there. I think I said a few small details to change, maybe to look at, but overall it sounded very nice. We have a lot of track submissions here. Next one is this one over here. This is Emerald the View. Sorry, there's some chat going on in here. Sorry, I just have to... While I'm streaming, it's a little bit annoying having people, I guess, have big conversations in here. So I'm just writing that before it even starts. Anyway, Come Test Me Plebs by Emerald DeVille here. Work in progress. Pre-release, I guess is what that means. Let's have a listen. It looks very cool. The artwork looks very cool. It's like dark side drum and bass here. Some very stereo elements. Where's my mouse? Here. There were some elements that were off the charts here. Essentially. Yeah, another one. Means that there's probably one element that gets pushed way too far and that's kind of pulling all of the other elements up here. Here again, if you're going to go this low, make sure that it's lower in volume than your main kick and bass so that it doesn't lose all of the power before it hits in the drop yet. Very dark kick and bass, very sub heavy, way too much. It's also bleeding into the next notes here. You can see bleeding into this transient over here, into this transient over here. The kick transient is being moved all the way down here. Looks like somebody doesn't use side scope, is all I'm saying. Tonality completely changes here, which I'm not a fan of. It's resampled weird, but did you do any processing after that? Did you do any filtering after that? Because the resampling doesn't really matter if you continue to apply filters. You're losing a lot of punch this way. I can hear it in the kick transient, which becomes very undefined now. Scope, just oscillos instead. I like side-scope over oscillos from what I've seen. Of course, I've never used oscillos, but side-scope has always worked for me. A little bit of a random place for the hats to start coming in. I would do that right after a fill or something like that. One of the things I would personally probably do for this track is turn the bass down by maybe 3 dB. Because now the kick doesn't really come out as the louder element, the element to dance to. Like a little bit of a transition into this element, it just kind of appears out of nowhere. Although the choir itself is very cool. Would maybe be nice to have a little bit of a break before this chord here, or this choir hits. I'm not really a fan of the growly texture of the bass, to be honest. It should, in my opinion, have a bit more of a click to it. But of course that's going to make it like more powerful sounding, so make sure that you compensate with that for the volume as well. like I said before. When it comes to the auto panning, I'm not a fan of the constant auto panning, especially when you're going 100%, which I feel like you're doing on some of the atmospheres here. Maybe it's better to go 50-50 and a little bit slower, that it's less noticeable of an effect. And even then, sometimes I just like to automate the amount between, say, 0% and 60% or 75%, something like that. In that place you can have more auto pan in certain parts and less auto pan in other parts. Here again we're in a breakdown, so make sure that you lower this by at least 5 dB in terms of volume. This is very bright and comes out of nowhere, which you probably should have something that introduces that idea. There's still a lot of details to work out in this track, I would say. But that's okay. Hey, suddenly it became quieter for it. Yeah, the grittiness of it, I'm not really a fan of that tone in the bass line there. That is something that I would personally try to address. Overall though, there's some very cool things happening in here, and I like what you're doing in terms of the sound design maybe. So yeah, cool track, keep working on it, fix some of the details, and then I'll love to hear it in maybe the next feedback stream or something like that. It's something that I can check later. Now we're going to go to Rebirth, Galactic Transcendence. I believe I've seen this before. The cool thing is I should be able to just search for this, right? Yeah, he has submitted this track before. Okay. Let's have a listen then. This is Rebirth with Galactic Transcendence. In process for the arrangement. Bit of a strange decision for an intro just to have a single pad here. Not really a fan of the kick drum. I recently released a tutorial on how to make proper kick drums, and this is not really it. It lacks a little bit of the punch at around 100 Hz. It lacks a bit of the sub, and it has a lot more like 500 Hz area here. Strange that we're already in a break again. Personally, I wouldn't go for that. The pad is getting way too loud here. I don't even know what's happening here. Very loud offbeat half. It's also strange that you're changing hat samples between sections. That's not something that you would normally do for such an important element. Here we have two melodies playing on top of each other that don't really match together. I can just lower the music a little bit. I hope this is okay. Strange that the sound suddenly becomes stereo and delayed all of a sudden. What I would do is have a little bit of delay in it at the normal spots, and then when you want the delay to be stronger, you make it more. You just increase the dry wet and the feedback. Some of these things are very, very loud. You can really see it being clipped off in a waveform. Just a wall of noise, this. This is not interesting. This is just a wall of repeating noise. It just repeats every beat. Here there's way too many elements on top of each other. Again, you can see how loud this track is over here. This is way too loud, as I found. It looks like you're mastering this as a dubstep track. Again, the open hat is on the loud side. I could get a loudness meter in here for the next stream. I'll try to set it up in a way that it just happens right above my camera so that you guys can also see it as well. Plus its mastering is back. That is what it looks like, yes. Honestly, when I hear elements like this where it's just sweeping up and down and not really doing anything, I'm not sure what you're really thinking when you're making this, because this just gets in the way of everything, right? If it's playing this loud. Here the same with this sound that just started playing now. It's a very strong comb filter sound. It is again very clear to me that you're just starting out producing, even though you've been in my Discord maybe like a year now. It's not, as somebody suggests, the rearrangement and gate staging and stuff like that. There's some musical ideas in here that just don't work with each other. There are some musical ideas that have too many elements playing at once. You cannot ever properly mix that. You have like mixing melodies, you have segments where you have this very long delay tail that is just fading out over, I don't know how long was that, like 2 minutes, that breakdown. So there's a lot of issues with this track still, and I would give you the same advice as we gave the 3 people ago. Just listen to a lot of reference material, see what professional sounding music sounds like, and try to emulate that with your own music. It also feels like the BPM is a little bit off for what you're trying to do. Like, it feels like you're writing in 135, 138-ish, where I would expect with, I guess, the kick and bass processing that I hear, that you would be closer to 143, 145. In terms of, like, the style of kick and bass that you're going for. It sounds slower than it needs to be, in my opinion. But that is one of the smaller issues that this track has. I would just start some more projects and listen, as I said, half an hour to music every day. That is very, very important here. And just try to emulate what other people are doing. Next up we have Bandit over here with new EP. Let's see, here's my track for feedback, Big Love. Okay, so these are 4 tracks. Which one? Don't know if I'm going to play everyone here. Do you have a one that you would like me to play here? One of the 4? Do you have like a favorite, or the one that you want feedback most, like on the most? Track 2, please.
So neuroplasticity is the scientific term that essentially means...
Okay, so this is track 2 by Bandit.
...change in response to experience. Tiny little connections called synapses form between neighbouring neurons in the brain. And the more we do that thing, the information or a skill... The
vocals very, very quiet.
...become, and the better we get.
The whole track is very quiet though. But the vocal is quiet relative to the rest of the track. Bassline is also a little bit quiet, could be 2 to 3 dB louder bass. I believe this is resampled, but there might be some remnants of some filtering left here. Just looking at what the waveformer is doing right before the transients, it's always pushing down slightly. You have some cool sound design going on, I like it. I like it, but I wouldn't put the hat here on the offbeat yet. Maybe not even on the kick. Like the place where we have it over here, this is a better place to introduce that. That you just have the kick and bass on its own for a little bit. vocal should come out more. Here on the synths it's really hard to mix in a vocal like that if you want to do it properly. Because it needs to be able to still tell its story, and therefore it essentially needs to sit above the main synths in terms of the mix. And since you have a lot of delay and reverb on top of it as well, it's really hard to understand what the vocal is saying. It sounded like the energy was going higher here for a second, but then it just goes into a breakdown. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that. I thought there was like a climax coming. Here again, just let the kick and bass play on its own. One of the things that this track is missing is some cool stuff happening in the fills. I believe every fill basically does the same thing with this sliding in thing here. I've heard that at least a couple of times now. The other thing I would say is that overall it's really hard to differentiate one section and the other. Because I feel like you're using a lot of repetition in terms of using synths in multiple places and such, and not really having a main element. Like, there's not really a main melody playing in this section that we hear over here. But maybe even a vocal shout, maybe even like a cool drum fill in the fills. All of those kind of elements should take your tracks to the next level. Because right now the whole track feels a little bit stale, basically based on two different problems. Overall, I like it. You have a lot of cool ideas going on. There's a lot of attention to detail when it comes to the sound design, but it does need a little bit more attention to detail. It's still having autoplay here, even though we're playing it from the thing itself, because this is a playlist that still had autoplay there, so that's what that was. Thanks for the feedback. I will work on those details and break, and also need to find the good vocals. Yeah, to be honest, you had vocals in there, but it sounds like they were mixed in a fairly strange way, in that they were fairly quiet and they had a lot of delay on them. If you want them, or what you should do, to be honest, is you should make them a little bit drier and a little bit more upfront in the mix. When it comes to vocals, they're really there to tell a story, and that can only be done if the listener understands what the vocal is trying to say. Overall though, I like the track. There was really one moment where the track didn't, I would say, like really deliver what I was expecting in terms of flow, where you were rising up to real high points and then it just became the breakdown. So I would maybe check if you can do something more interesting with that as well, so that you can actually get like a high moment, a moment of hype in that part of the track. But the next track is going to be over here, THWSN, Tall Sin D San, with the sound of disco. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation, but I know I mispronounced stuff there. Maybe you could raise the bass a little bit. Yeah, I did say raise the bass by like 2-3 dB. Sounding very clean so far. I like the mix that we have going on here. I'm not a fan of the sidechaining not engaging before the kick. What I love to see is the sidechain if you do a sidechain with, say, LFO tool. Something that looks like this, as opposed to having a shape like that. Drag it a little bit forward your sidechaining. That it really cuts off before the kick, as opposed to on top of the kick transient. Sounds like a bit of a strange vocal. It sounds like a hardstyle vocal.
A way to salvation. Stand as one. This is our destiny.
I like what you're doing here. Sounds cool. A little bit more of an aggressive session, I guess. Session or section, sorry. Like the outro. Maybe something to look into is stereoizing your bass line.
Your reality.
I just noticed that it's completely mono. It didn't feel like that when it's playing in here. Maybe that's because you're doing so much other cool stuff with the stereo fields. So it's a bit more of a shocker that the bass itself is completely mono. A bit of stereo widening with a tool like M-Stereo Scratch can really work wonders on your bassline. Just make sure that you set this higher to maybe 150. Here the rumble is definitely bleeding into your kick transient. You definitely want to fix that. If you go back into where this drop starts, if you look at the first kick transient versus all of the other kick transients, you'll see a big difference between the first transient and everything that's happening over here. And that is because your rumble is bleeding into the next bit. Sounds cool. I like that. I'm going to take a quick break. Maybe 10 minutes or so. Not even 10 minutes. Let's see. I'll just put on this track over here, which is maybe like 8 minutes long. And then towards the end of the track, I'll come back and then we'll continue. As always. I just need to go to the toilet and get myself some new drinks, so I might as well take the break now. And yeah, I'll be back soon, and I hope that you guys enjoy the track in the meantime. Let me see. The analyzers aren't working on my thing. On my track. That's because I'm no longer pushing Ableton back into itself in my virtual mixer. That means next time I just need to drop the track on the track that the analyzers are actually on, and that should fix the issue. I wonder why I didn't notice that before, because I've changed my audio setups a few weeks ago now. I think it's last time in the streams I would always play it through the mix and just have those videos there. Are people posting works in progress or completed songs? People are posting both, and you're allowed to post both. Post whatever you want, I'll just listen to it. I've been watching videos for a while, but this is the first time on live. Where can I send something? Exclamation point feedback will have all of the answers that you're looking for. There's a channel specifically dedicated to it on my Discord server. Of course, make sure that you read the rules by clicking here and reading this. Let me finish playing this. We don't need that anymore. Very good mix, thank you. It's still a production mix, so I'm going to upgrade more, hopefully, the mix part. But the production is pretty close to finished on this song. Next up, we have Eclipse over here by ZWB. Still work in progress. A few parts are still missing. Unsure about the bass line. We'll have a listen to that. Interesting start. It sounds a little bit out of tune. Like it changes key here. The bass line sounds very good. The kick sounds like it lacks a little bit of punch to me. Some of the sounds are a little bit loud here, like that one over there that came in. Yeah, the kick drum is too snappy for this kind of track. I would have it a little bit more on the knocky side, you know, the tock, tock, as opposed to the very sharp click that you have going on here. When it comes to your kick drums, one of the tips that I always give is to low pass it at around 10 kHz. And your bass line maybe at 8 kHz. That you have the space for your top drums. not sure I'm a fan of this lower donk kind of synth that you have playing here, the tong tong tong.
Cosmic cycles converge. Resonate with the frequencies. Feel the pulse of the universe.
You're one of my favorite people to watch and learn from. Thank you. You're welcome. I'm glad you like the content. And thanks for watching.
The eclipse.
I like this bit here with the percussions that you're doing. This is the first moment where the track really feels like it started doing something new, which I like. Maybe over here you can introduce an acid line, building up to the next segment, and that then can become the next main element.
The dance of the celestial shadows begins. Cosmic cycles converge. As the sun hides behind the moon.
Strange that the drums come in one bar late. In fact, in this part I would probably not have the drums come in yet up until maybe like this moment here. Have a little fill after 8 bars and then have the drums come in. Top drums sound very mono. Like you have some percussions in here that definitely produce a little bit of stereo play. Just sent something in Discord, thanks. And by the way, I'm just trying to just build some kits to fit into the new tracks that the previous team talked about. Seems like a good tool, not gonna lie. It is a very good tool. The way that it generates kick drums is, at least in my opinion, better for sidetrans, because it allows you to maybe change the transient without immediately screwing up the bass alignment. You keep that stuff in the plugin, of course. Here again you have a few elements that are just completely mono, which sounds a little bit off to me. Like that saw wave synth that is playing here. Usually in these parts you can hear whether the kick or the bass is a little bit too loud for the other elements when you're filtering it like that. And I feel like the bass line is a little bit on the loud side. I guess you can also hear it here. But here when the sub bass is playing, I mainly would say that it has too much sub. Maybe it's a bit of both. Maybe you can even reintroduce some second, third, fourth harmonic content in this kind of area over here. Like this area. While reducing the sub and reducing the volume of the bass a little bit. Interesting UI, yeah, I agree. The UI needs to be cleaned up a little bit more. I sometimes find myself editing things that I didn't want to edit just because of the choices in the UI. Overall, when it comes to this track, I like some of the ideas that are in here, but it needs a lot more work. So I hope that you continue this track and that you can take some of my feedback into account. How many more tracks are actually in here? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more tracks. That's a decent amount still. After like 1.5 hours. I guess I already took my break, so that's part of the reason why. Next up is Immersive Chaos number 4, 158 in F by again Simulatra Music. Sorry for mispronouncing that. Thanks for the feedback, Projector, and the tips about lowering the kick and bass volumes are great ideas for adding a little extra sauce. If you have time to give feedback on another one of mine, that would be awesome. If not, really enjoying the stream today, and thanks again for taking the time to weigh in your options to help me make a track the best it can be. That was a long sentence. You guys are really trying to get me to mispronounce stuff, writing long sentences like that. Anyway, Immersive Chaos. Let's have a listen. Thanks, you're welcome. I hope you can use the feedback. Sounds like an interesting flowy start. I like it. I like the use of real world instruments here as well. I might get a copyright strike on this actually. This means that you did not actually read the rules of the stuff that I said in here. Don't submit works to which you don't fully own the copyright to. I assume you don't own the copyright to that song that just played. Some of the sounds are a little bit overpowering the kick and bass. Mehdi, welcome. Nin XZ, welcome to the stream as well. Matthew Saboy, I don't know if I said hi to you yet. If I didn't, welcome to the stream as well. Snack came in at a little bit of a strange time. I would use a fill for that. I heard some drums set up a rhythm at the very beginning of this drop, and then they never came back. It went like... Now we have the snare doing a very similar thing. But I think repeating those drums maybe every 2 bars or every 4 bars is something that would make this part a little bit more interesting. Overall, I would say the dynamics on the top loop could be a little bit tighter, and overall they could have a slight bit more brightness in like the 10K area. Overall though, the ideas for this track are very, very cool. I like what you're doing here. Maybe on these sign plugs, it could be nice to have a little bit of extra width. It feels like those are one of the elements that sit mainly in the mono space, whereas I would imagine that it would be cool for them to be very wide. Especially because overall this track is very stereo. I'm not a fan of what is happening with the kick here. I did like the build-up part, but not the part where it's like doubling up on the bass. My track won't be in this register, so but I hope you like it anyway. I don't really mind the subgenres, I just like psytrance, so I think that won't be an issue. And even stuff outside of psytrance you can still submit it if you want to. Click there, I think you saw it in the waveform. Like this atonal atmosphere that kept going on here that is, I felt like was slightly rising, was a little bit on the loud side. I do like this one over here though, because it's chopped up and because it plays not throughout the whole thing, basically. It functions more as a lead than an actual riser, even though technically it is, it sounds like it's rising up. Feels a little bit on the loud side, that talking atmosphere here. I like this interaction where both of the atmosphere and that synth kind of went up with the comb filter and then down together as well. That's really cool. When it comes to guys chatting, I don't read Discord while I'm streaming. There's a perfectly fine working chat over here for YouTube where I can see everything, and this is constantly up on my screen. I just saw it now because you tagged me here, but I see that there's other messages here as well. I'm usually just on this screen because if I move away from this screen over here and I click on this thing somewhere else, the music itself stops playing. So when you want to type me something, don't write it here, don't write it in Discord, don't write it in this channel here either. This is not for discussion, as I said before. Just write it in the YouTube chat. That is why we have the YouTube chat, and that is where I can, it's easiest for me to see your messages there. I don't know what this is about though. Sorry about the copyright note. I can't actually see the pinned note. I didn't have a look for it as I spotted it on your stream. It's not showing up like it does on your stream view, not sure why. I think it's because you're on mobile. On desktop here it works for me, but what happens if you tap on the feedback for stream? It should give you something like a description for the channel or something. I don't have my phone here, so I cannot check, but if I take a quick break later, I'll check how that works, how it actually shows up. Sorry, I'm making a mess here. Very cool. I thought track will be more like in the binding. I don't know what that means, I'm sorry. My track next, sorry for the mess. It's all I have now. I'm sure it will be okay. It's from 2018 apparently. I like the second part, you can skip most of the intro, just wanted to share it with you. I'm not going to skip around through tracks. I like to judge the whole thing. If the intro is still work in progress, then maybe I can give you some tips on how to improve it. Like playing more with automations here to have it change more over time. I'm personally not a fan of already having sidechaining in the intro, like you have over here. Sounds a little bit off to me. Very dark kick and bass. I don't know if you resampled it. It looks like you did go for some resampling, but you can still fade it out a little bit more at the bass part here. Make sure that you don't bleed into the next transient of your bass note. I hope you don't mind me putting in a hard cells this raw track. I won't mind any genre of music. You can put in whatever you want. On mobile it's under settings. Okay, yeah. Now I cannot check who was asking, because if I do switch to a different channel this stops playing, so I cannot tell that person. Overall, I'm not a fan of the groove of the closed hats. It sounds like it's playing on top of the kick and not like being sidechained to it, which is what you'll usually hear. I do like this part over here where it's a little bit more groovy though. Yeah, this closed head groove is really throwing me off here. It feels like it's working against what the closed head and what the kick is doing. Overall, I would say that there's too few changes in terms of the sound design, too few transitions. Like here we're listening to the same sound playing a different MIDI than we were in the part before. As opposed to actually like getting a new sound in there. Again, if you're going to have the kick and bass this loud and you're going to transition into the drop like that, you're losing all of the impact of the drop. So what I would do is remove those bass notes that connect the intro bit or the introduction of the kick and bass to the actual drop of the kick and bass, and then lower the introduction part and the breakdown of the kick and bass by 5-6 dB. So that when the kick and bass actually plays in the drop, it gets more power. Here again, the sound design is identical to the stuff that we already heard before. One of the things I really liked about the last track, the track before this one played, is how much things changed and how many different ideas he was able to create with at least a limited set of different sounds. He had some sounds that were special to unique segments, he had some sounds that played kind of like supportive throughout the whole track, and that is not really happening here, in the sense that it's just the same idea over and over again. Yeah, it feels like this sound that's playing over here plays about like half the track, and it's always playing the same rhythm, it's always playing that rhythm fully. It's sounding very repetitive, exactly. Overall, there are some cool ideas in the track. It's a good start, but it becomes repetitive very, very quickly. And I would personally suggest that you take a listen to this track again here and use this kind of as your reference, even though it's slightly different in terms of style. Like, this is definitely a lot darker in terms of the kick and bass, at least, that you're going for. But there's definitely some tricks that you can get out of a track like this and how you could arrange different synths and stuff like that to get maybe a little bit more of a complex feeling to the track, which right now it's missing. Next up we have Mehdi Malou. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. With 7 stars. Interesting start here. I feel like this is not going to be Psytrance. Maybe. I don't think it is. loud on that vocal suite there. There's a lot happening here. There's like 2 different vocal shouts, a vocal loop, a acid line. Maybe overall you have a bit too much stuff going on. It's hard to focus on, or it's hard for me to tell what you actually want us to focus on. Maybe part of that also has to do with it, with the mix and such. It does end up being siphons though. Kick and bass definitely needs cleaning. You can see some bleeding on the transients here, here, here a lot. Definitely resample your kick and bass. Here's probably a better example. You're gliding into the transients here, and that is what's pushing the transients around. Effectively losing out on free punch. Is playing music while speaking. Yes, I am. If the music is too loud, please let me know. I can turn it down if needed. I'm also sitting a little bit further away from the microphone as usual, and my disc is in front of my mixer, so I cannot really see. I feel like I should turn it down maybe to here. Maybe now it's better with the volume. Thank you for notifying me. Now I actually had to check and I discovered that it was too loud. Gonna get another copyright claim here, nice. This might be some kind of splice loop or something like that, but even then, there's a good chance somebody else has used it and released that. I like the ideas in this track. I just think that you have maybe a little bit too much going on at any given time. When it comes to writing, both writing and mixing, you want to guide the listener into listening to one specific element. Of course, that is disregarding the kick and bass and all of your top drums. I'm mainly talking about the mid-range synths and vocals and whatever else that you're doing in there. But in those places you need to make a choice of, okay, this is going to be the main element of this segment and this is going to be all of the supportive elements of this segment. And then you need to mix and write accordingly. Because right now what's happening is that all of the synths are essentially playing together and they're trying to all be in your face, which is not how it works. You just have a limited amount of space, so some of the synths you just put back in the mix and then they become more like subconscious elements that sit behind it. So something like the saw chords or the plucks or stuff like that can take a back seat, while the vocal chops take more of a forefront in the mix. But overall, I like the ideas, just needs a little bit more work on in regards to the mixing. This song is a work in progress, ending is not finished, as we're working on a guitar solo. Synth wave part with live vocals are also not complete. I was hoping for feedback up to that point. That's up to 4:29 here. Let's see. So this is going to be an interesting type of music, I think. Meteor 3-11 by Zalev. Bit strange sounding kick and bass. I'm not sure I like the knock on the kick drum, the transient on the kick drum. Kick and bass also sound very, very quiet. Like the atmospheres and everything is kind of overpowering the kick and bass here. Bassline is fairly sub heavy as well. Could have a little bit more mid-range instead. Whereas the kick doesn't really have any punch in the lower frequencies. It's strange that the breakdown sounds so good and then the kick and bass is, to be honest, sounding very beginner-like, like some really strange technical decisions. The kick drum itself not having a lot of sub frequencies, the kick and bass being so quiet. And this is sounding better mixed than the Psytrance part, I would say. Like here you can barely hear the kick and bass over that pluck that is playing. Some people do like the lack of kick and bass. Yeah, no, that's just a mistake. That's not something that you should do inside of Psytrance music. Psytrance really revolves around the kick and bass, so those should be two most important elements in the track. Yeah, it's weird how it sounds. The drums sound amazing and the kick and bass, even if it's on purpose, sounds way less powerful. Exactly. Here at least the bass line is starting to get a little bit of power, but the kick is not present whatsoever. I can just hear it's transient, and that's because the transient sounds a little bit off to me. But like the actual punch of the kick isn't coming through whatsoever. Fairly infected mushroom style here. I liked how that last fill happened, how that last fill played. Honestly, my guy, it sounds like you already found a guitar solo. Funny how there's more sub bass provided by the acoustic drum than as opposed to the synthetic drum, where you get to properly control the amount of sub bass that you get directly from the plugin. Yeah, some very strange decisions in here. I hope that you can fix the mix, but overall I like the idea of the track that you're going for. That part sounds really nice. Ending is a placeholder guitar. It sounds not too much placeholder, it sounds good. I would just use that one, to be honest. I don't see the need to replace that particular part. I hope that the feedback is helpful though. I hope that you can work with that. Next up we have Wreck over here. Hi there, one of the tracks to be released on my... Hi there, one of the tracks to be released soon on my first EP. It has a mastering chain just to get the feel of the finished product, but I'm still touching the final mix. Okay. Ethereal Testimony, 154 BPM preview. We're getting a lot more faster stuff and a little bit darker stuff. It's an older kick from Vengeance 3, it's old. Yeah, you can definitely hear that it's not a modern kick anymore, but that's probably something that I would go for still. Or at least trying to make your own kick drum. Is it me or does this feel slightly out of tune with the atmospheres that were playing in the intro? I know those atmospheres are atonal, but they sometimes hint a little bit to a key, and I was expecting a darker key coming from this. Even here I would say the kick and bass could use like 3-4 dB more. The atmospheres are really overpowering in this part. Some fills where the kick and bass just stops for a bar, or it's just a kick fill for a bar, would be nice here in that last part.
The freeing of organic life from the chrysalis of matter.
Here when you're introducing drums like that and such, that is also a place where I would do that right after a fill, as opposed to it just randomly starting. And while you have an open hat, it would be nice to maybe combine that with a closed head already, it feels very naked, just the open head like you have it now. Bubble, welcome. I know it's a choice in terms of the different aesthetic things that we may disagree on for this track, but that's why I give you my opinion on that choice, or at least what I should do, or what I would do if this was my track. It takes a lot of rhythm out of the track, but sometimes I just like for it to breathe, if that makes sense. The way that it's playing now, the open head on its own is not breathing, it's just distracting to me. Because it feels like you muted half the drum loop.
There's been life on this planet, but never life that could step outside of matter.
Here, this hat has the same problem as the other hat, I would say. Tonally, I like this a little bit more. So maybe you can find a closed hat that works together with the tone here. Or that is like a very similar tone. One of the things that I heard with this hat is that sometimes you're doing like a little kick roll or a kick fill and the hat just continues playing. The whole point of a kick roll is to break up the groove. So for the groove with another element to continue, it just sounds a little bit off. Kind of like what you had there, where the kick or the bass stops for a bar, so also the offbeat hi-hat stops for a bar or a beat. Sorry. Here as well, you have the little fill there, so it stops playing there for a little bit. Overall, I like it. I like some of the ideas that you have in this track. There wasn't really any segment that particularly stands out, but that's kind of the goal of a Dark Side track. That is kind of the way that it's written. It's just this one morph of atmospheres and such. and that part it did well. As I said, there are some details that I would still change about this track, but the main issue that it has is that the kick and bass is just too quiet for the track. Turn that up by 4 or 5 dB and you should be better. Sorry guys, just checking if everything is in order. The next track that I'm going to listen to here is this Bad Company one. So this is the track that we heard before for anybody wondering. And the next track will be Nin XZ with Bad Company 150 BPM F. I'm assuming at least that's BPM and key. So let's have a listen. I like the transition into the kick and bass. What I don't like is the kick and bass was already playing from the very start. But I would personally just have its atmospheres before it and then get into the drop so the drop has a little bit more impact. I would also turn up the bass line maybe 1 dB here. It could use 1 more dB. Overall though, I like that it's clean. Really like seeing that. Here we have another hat that has kind of like the same problem as the last track, where it feels a little bit naked. I know that there's other closed hats that are very close in it, but what we're missing here, I feel like, is the snare. At this point I would have expected the snare to already play. In fact, I would have played it in the segment before this one. Nice vocal. I think I heard some bass and kicks overlapping there. I'm not entirely sure, but if there is, make sure to check that out and make sure that you're not doing that. If you have kick rolls, then just remove the bass part. That's much better as trying to actually mix those two elements together, which is pretty much impossible. That's hard, great track, good beginning. I like that everybody likes it. This is a very good track. I like all of the variations that you're doing. I like the vocals that you have in here. This last vocal felt like it was a little bit quiet, but I was talking over it, so that might not be the case. Stefan and Rocco, welcome to the stream, by the way. I like your feedback format made. You reanalyze and give great advice into the technical side of things too. Thank you. I like to talk about mostly the technical side, because when it comes to somebody's like actual art, sometimes there's things that I can say, like especially to beginners, like okay, this rhythm is just not working for me, or this particular sound design is not working for me. But once people are at a level like this level over here, there's really not much that I can argue with the sound design that they're doing and stuff like that. This is all very psychedelic. This is all the way that it's supposed to be. And then there are some technical ways to make it shine more. And that is what I like to point out. I like that the melody of the sliding bass that you had before kind of carried over in this part over here. 6 likes and 20 watching. For me it's saying more, I'm getting 16. By the way, welcome Sufis. Honestly, for this track I would also say the kick and bass is a bit quiet. Not as bad as the last track, where we needed like 4 or 5 dB, maybe even 6 dB to get the kick and bass at the right level. This one maybe 1 dB, 1.5 for both the kick and the bass. I forgot to refresh it. Yeah, I get live statistics for that, of course. Like it updates every once in a while. It also shows me how many viewers are at any point in time. Cool stuff. I like it. I quickly need to check again. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more tracks here. I will continue on a little bit longer today, as the last times. I think the last times I aimed for maybe 2.5 to 3 hours, and now I'm going to go maybe 3.5 to 4 hours. At least as long as we're getting music. If this is the last music that people submit, then at the end of the queue I'll just quit, of course. But I assume that people are just going to continue to spam music, and at some point I'll just say like enough is enough. And that will be it then. This one's more on the harder style side, still a work in progress. It's cool. Now what is happening a lot with your track is that stuff around the drops, the parts where we're not really dancing, are louder than the parts where we're actually supposed to dance. So that's definitely something to look into, but other than that, very well done. There's a lot of work put into the details, of course, there. It's all very loud sounding, but there's interesting techniques that go into making music that is both this loud and this clean. So very well done. I like that. Next up, we have a bit of a wall of text here. I know it's cheeky sending a third track, but it seems like the other two I put up. But it seemed to... Sorry. I am a little bit tired, if you can't tell. But you seemed to like the other two I put up. You're getting through so many. So if you have extra one, I'd love to hear your advice on this. This one does have a vocal from the Spanish translation of Simpsons, from this to this. And then odd little tiny chips, tiny clip-ups to 2 minutes that I doubt would get striked for copyright. So maybe skip to like 1:42 to begin. The intro is a little dragged out. There's a section from 4:30 where I'm trying a different style bass sound out. I'm not very good with these. So any tips could give me... So any tips you could give to help me elevate the sound design or just mix it better would be appreciated. Sorry, I'm not very good at reading. Low energy today. Anyway, I'm just going to play the track in full. As long as it's not like a remix or something like that, the chance of getting XT copyright striked isn't that high, so I'm willing to take the chance with the vocals, even though it's technically against my rules. But yeah. For next time, keep that in mind when you're submitting stuff. Oh yeah, that's a good point you made. Cheers. You're welcome. I hope that it's useful, the feedback. You're right that this is a very drawn-out intro again. It felt like you again had some sidechaining in there, which I'm not a fan of on some of the elements. When you have like pads and stuff like that, or atmospheres, and there's sidechain, it sounds a little bit odd to me, in my opinion, because the kick isn't playing yet, so it's like playing against an imaginary kick that isn't there yet. This is of course different than a sidechain, because that's like a polymeter, so that actually works in terms of creating that hypnotic effect. Not a fan of the snare. It sounds and looks like the snare has some fundamental frequencies in here. So you can see the difference between the kick over here and the kick here. It has like 1, 2, 3 holes, whereas this has less of that. What that means is that there's some frequencies cancelling with the transient of your kick drum over here, which is the lower mid-range frequencies. I would personally always high pass my snares to just have the noise component in there. A little bit more stereo play here. I can hear that FM synth being very, very mono. When it comes to stereo play, what I mean by that is not just panning. Most of the time it isn't actually panning, but just stereo widening. I like where this track is going, but at this point the FM synth really needs to stop playing because it's been dominant for a very long time. So that's exactly what we get. I like that little doo-doo-doo-doo segment. That's cool if you have it return every once in a while. I don't know if I like that switch up here. Going into the triplets, that's a little bit of a... Personally, I would just keep it as the sliding bassline that you have got here, so that you don't change the pattern too much. Here you have some rises which sound fairly loud. Could be a little bit lower. Or should be a little bit lower, I would say. It was a little bit of a strange breakdown. I wasn't able to decide if I liked it or not. But BPM, this is 159. There's some very clean sound design and very clean mixing going on in this track. There's not much to say about the technical cleanliness of all of the sounds and how they're following each other up and such. Overall, this stuff is really well done. I like it a lot. I like this level of energy. Personally, for me, it's a little bit too high. You might find that in the productions that I personally make, that my energy level is a little bit lower. Right, in the stuff that I write, it's more progressive. And this kind of psytrance, what I've noticed is that my theories of flow also kind of break down completely and don't really apply at this high energy level. I really like this one, nice work. Yeah, there's a... The three tracks that we've heard from this guy, all three have been really well done. So overall, it's just making high quality psytrance here. Yeah, I would probably put this at professional level. Like if this were placed on like a proper label, like Ombi Moon, I guess is one of the labels that would maybe accept something like this. There was another one that was said before as well. I think at least in the chat that somebody said they would like to see this kind of stuff on. Oh, I don't like to see this. Clean up your kick and bass, my friend. I'm glad that we were able to catch this, because now I can sincerely say that it's not as good as I thought it would be. Or there's still a few details that you need to work on. It was still a very good track, don't get me wrong. We have some more tracks coming in. There's a few shorter ones here. Can I see the length of this one? Yeah. Okay. So we have a few shorter ones here, and then I'll take a quick break and see if there's more submissions as well. For now, aup.mp3. That rhymes. Very well done. By Shmukas Litz. Let's see what this is. It doesn't really sound psytrancey. At least not yet. Maybe it has a little bit of a psytrance vibe here. It does. Okay, so this is going to be a track with like a key change back and forth, I assume. Not really a fan of how it turned around from the more progressive idea into the, I would almost say, dark idea by just the nature of the kick drum that you're going for. Like, it's a bit of a wonky kick drum, to be honest. Kick and bass also needs a little bit of cleaning, like you can fade out a little bit earlier on the bass line once you have it resampled. This is again one of those tracks where the kick and bass just needs to be a little bit louder as well. Like add 3 dB, maybe 4 dB to both the kick and the bass, and you should be okay. Because now you can see the waveform is really being determined by the main element that is being played on top of it, whereas the kick and bass is what should be giving the shape to the waveform. Because that's the main element. You can hear the kick and bass is now just completely overpowered. But it's a nice start. I like that. I was expecting it to go on longer because a lot of the other tracks that we had before were a lot longer, so even though I knew that they were shorter tracks, I was still caught off guard by the fact that it was actually shorter. IDM, I guess. I guess so. Why You Want to Help Me.mp3 by Side here. Let's have a listen. Nice tranquil vibe to start off with. I like it, but it feels like the kick, the main like 3 kicks that play are mixed way louder than any of the other drums. It feels like it goes kick, bass, other drums, where it should be kick and other drums. The other drums should be a little bit louder and also higher up in the hierarchy as the bass line. Also, when it comes to the bass line, I would probably personally like sidechain it to the kick drum at least. Especially this stuff where you just have a drone. Overall, I like the spaciousness of this track. You can basically see that in the mix, right? In the sense that in the waterfall display there isn't really a lot going on. But the things that are there really have their own pocket to sit in. So that is really well done. That's essentially what I mean with the I guess it's like almost an emptiness of the mix that you're making full use of. IDM? Yes. At least that is what the person submitting it called it. To be honest, I don't know too much about IDM, so I don't know if this is good IDM or not. But I like the sounds that we're getting. So there's that. I like that. Sounded very good. There's some more tracks still being submitted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another quick break. I'll play a different track this time and I'll try to see if it works like this. If I just drop this in here, will it play like this? No. Okay, so I guess there's no analyzers for this then, unless I take the stuff that is happening on the feedback loop itself, take these analyzers and duplicate them temporarily over to here. I need to remember to delete this so that I open up the other analyzers again when the break stops, but for now that should mean that we have analyzers for the break track, as you can see over there. So I'm going to take a quick break and I'll be back once the track is finished, and then we'll continue with the 3 more tracks that you guys have submitted. Of course, you guys can continue to submit more. I'm going to probably do roughly another hour of streaming after my break. So yeah, there should be more tracks hopefully when I come back so that I have enough content to keep doing that. It was supposed to be IDM. I think you succeeded in that. I liked what you made here. Yeah, I'll be right back.
suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream. Naturally, as you began on this adventure of dreams, you would fulfill all your wishes, every kind of pleasure you could conceive. And then you would get more and more adventurous, and you would make further and further out gambles as to what you would dream. So in this idea then, everybody is fundamentally the ultimate reality.
Okay, it's good that I didn't trust my use of the Stream Deck because I was on the wrong screen. This track is basically finished for mixing. There may be one or two small details. I guess here the vocal is a little bit loud now for some reason. I had an issue in the last production project. Oh, I guess it... Ah, it still had the old loop. Yeah, so the old track was playing up until here, so it cut off the last bit, but that doesn't really matter. The vocal is just very loud in here. I think here it's okay, but there's a moment in here where it becomes very loud. Yeah. There's a few more issues with this, but nothing that I shouldn't be able to fix in the mixing part. So this is basically ready to be exported for mixing, this track. Which would make it the first track of the album that is actually at that stage. But with some of the other tracks I'm also getting very close, so there's not too much to worry about. Can I still submit, and does it have to be sidetrans? Yes, you can still submit. No, it doesn't have to be sidetrans. 2 seconds here. I'm just going to turn off my air conditioning for now, because it's cool enough that I'm no longer sweating, which is nice. That's a big plus. This apartment gets incredibly hot, the apartment that I'm staying at, because it's at the top floor and in the middle of the apartment, as well as in the stairwell that is right next to here. It has a glass ceiling, so it becomes it becomes very warm very quickly. You can feel the difference if you stand in front of my door or if you go down half a flight of stairs. You can actually feel the difference in the temperature that gets you. It is very strange, but that's just how it works on the top floor. I'm happy that my next apartment isn't on the top floor. It's going to be on the lowest floor of the building. So over here we have high. I don't do sideturns, but I don't do sideturns often, but I really enjoy doing it. So here's an extract. You can start playing at 2:15. It's quite minimalist, and the kick and bass have too much sub on this version. Peace. We'll be the judge of that. I'm just going to start playing, and I play the whole thing because I like to judge things as a whole. I don't like to skip over parts and such, because I think maybe I'll have something valuable to say. It starts off indeed very, very minimal. Maybe a few pads, a few extra atmospheres underneath this would be nice. Very progressive kick and bass for all of the other elements that sit in here. It sounded like you were going for something a little bit more dark side-ish. So maybe rethink the synths that you use on top of this part. Stuff like that acid line works a lot better. Maybe some donks, maybe some like orchestral drums on top of this. That's the vibe that I would go for if I'm just listening to the kick and the bass here. Also, one of the things you can try is to make your hats follow the rhythm of the kick and bass. Because now they just felt like they were placed on top of it without much purpose. I do indeed think that the kick and bass has a little bit too much stuff, as you said. I also feel like the bass line doesn't really have a click. It doesn't really have a transient, which would be nice to have. I think the phase that you're starting with, the starting phase, is just set slightly off from where it needs to be. I feel like the ARP doesn't sound quite in tune, but maybe that's because you're doing key changes with it without doing that in the main bass. It just sounds a little bit off to me in some spots. Like that there. This part as well. I like the space. I do agree. It gives me a little bit of that Captain Hook kind of vibe, which I like. I wasn't initially prepared for it with the sound design and the kick and bass not really matching. But now that I'm getting used to it, I do like the idea of this track. One of the things that I'm not entirely sure about is the amount of different variations that you have to the kick and bass. In some parts it feels like it's really hard to follow what the kick and bass is doing and where new sections begin and that kind of stuff. Just because you're just doing so much with the kick and bass. This section is already a little bit better. When you do 3 rolls like that, make sure that you fade out every kick so that it doesn't bleed into the transient of the next. That is something that I often see what people do, and that is one of the things that you should look out for when you look for the cleanliness of your kick and bass. Not just the kick on the bass and the bass on the kick, if those 2 elements don't interfere with each other, but also if the elements don't interfere with other copies of the same element, essentially. And that is something that I see more. Like a lot of people, they'll LFO tool their bassline and they call that like the way that they're handling their cleanliness. And in a way it's okay in the sense that that really prevents the bleeding into the kick drum. But on the other hand, it doesn't prevent the bleeding from one bass note into the next bass note. And between kick drums, it's also not a way, like LFO tool cannot help you fix bleeding from one kick into the next. It's only the bleeding between 2 different elements that you can really cut out with LFO tool. So if you want like proper cleanliness of your kick and bass, then resampling is still the best option. And for the kicks, in this case, is when it comes to those rolls, you get a lot more punch out of the transients of each of those kicks in the rolls if the last kick that is playing isn't bleeding into that kick drum. If it stops playing and then the next kick drum plays. So that it gives it a little bit of space, a little bit of a pause. It's usually just like half a millisecond is enough, and then it just goes into the next transient. At least that gives it a nice amount of power. Next up we have Rise over here by THWSN. Let's have a listen. We're getting some shorter tracks, which is nice, so we get a little bit more variation, I guess. This is another harder thing, I think. We'll have to see if once the sub comes in. But this sounds more like a fast techno track than... Yeah. A lot of bleeding here as well. You can hear that in the transient. In this case, the transient is getting ducked out of the way by the rumble. You're welcome. Bit empty here. When it comes to these kind of things, personally I would not sidechain them because they have enough space. And if it's a vocal and you really wanted to tell a story or say something meaningful to the audience, they have to hear it in its full capacity, and the sidechaining takes just parts of that vocal away. I think you're doing both a rumble and the normal bass line, which doesn't really work well together. Like they're clearly clashing if they're both playing. Because you can hear this bass line over here, right? Which is very harmonic, very strong. And then when the rumble comes in, it's just completely gone. Either those 2 parts are using different bass lines, or the rumble is messing up so much with the main bass that it's just completely destroying it. I feel like it's the second one because I can still see some of those harmonics, those very strong harmonics there. So definitely some details to take care of. I hope that that's helpful. We'll move on to the next track, which is going to be Waldmeister by Stafftater 86. I'm sorry for the pronunciation. I know that that's not correct, but I feel like sometimes you guys come up with the weirdest names just to troll me for my pronunciation. Not quite finished, not really mixed / mastered, but I've started producing about 2 years ago, focused on full-on side, but I tried myself in forest, and I think with a bit more of the special sauce, it should be finished soon. Excited about some professional feedback for the first time. Let's hear. Many different styles submitted. Yeah, in general, my feedback streams tend to be very differing in all of the different styles that we have people producing and submitting. So that's nice. I like that. I also like the sometimes that people come by and don't even produce sidetrans.
When I was the forest. When I was the stream.
Felt a little bit strange for a moment, but now I'm realizing that the kick and bass is still coming in here. Let's see, I hope that you're actually lowering the kick and bass volume there. So that when it comes in the drop, it's nice and loud. Yeah, no, it's very weak here. So what you can do is, when the kick and bass plays in the drop, just turn it up by 5 dB. Also, your bass line should probably close a little bit faster. It's a little bit too open. A little bit of groove in it would be nice, so the first of the 3 bass notes could be a little bit quieter as well. The 32 notes every so often, just repetitively, sounds a little bit off to me. Also, the random turning on and off of the drum loop is not something that I would do personally myself. Doesn't really work for me.
Did I have a purpose?
There's some cool sound design going on in here though. And I like some of the spoken vocals, the way that you're using them. I'm not sure the ethnic vocals fit the style exactly, but it could be nice to have those two elements kind of as a contrast. In the sense that the ethnic vocals really contrast hard with all of the synth kicks you're doing. If that makes sense. With the kick respect to the bassline, I think the kick could also be louder by 2-3 dB. For 2 years it's not bad at all. Yeah, no, for 2 years of production this is actually very good.
I beg
Here you have so many high frequency contents on top of it, and especially here where it also becomes a lot louder, that the vocal really isn't audible and really isn't understandable, which is very strange if you have a vocal that is actually speaking about something. I don't think I like that you're always using the same melody idea for the bass line. Maybe it would be interesting to change up the melody every once in a while for different sections. You can hear how big of an issue the kick and bass volume is in this particular part of the track, because the kick and bass is just not coming through whatsoever. Some extra interest in the stereo field would also be nice. Some of these sounds sound very, very mono, like the FM sound over here. At this point there was just a little empty part there. I'm not sure if that's intentional, but I would fill that up with stuff as well. At least up until the fill. Until you go into the next segment. I'm not a fan of this different key sound here. That sounds very strange. Are those still the 32 notes, or is that more? It feels like that should be more, right? Here we finally get a little bit of a different melody. Having a little bit of more play throughout the rest of the track with the bassline melody would be nice. The track is okay, I just don't like the tonality of the kick and bass, it's too bright for a dark track. I could agree with that, yeah. I like the kick, but the bassline, as I said, is a little bit too open. So the envelope needs to be closed faster. So that you get a bit more of a clicky bassline. I think the kick is okay. Cool stuff. I like it. Next up we have State of Hardware by Kainos. He said it's kind of loud, -4 LUFS, which is decently impressive, depending on the genre. But let's just listen to what we have here. Sounds like some kind of big room house vibe, or maybe hardstyle.
This is a state of hard wave.
This is some kind of like very aggressive future bass, I guess. I feel like the very loud mastering is not really benefiting this track. Like, the punch of the kick drum is entirely gone. One of the things that I would probably do if this was my track is make sure that all of the subs are a little bit shorter, so that they stop playing before the kick drum actually comes in, because now they play and they're covering up the actual punch of the kick drum. Yeah, I think in terms of loudness, this track is a little bit overdone. OTT much indeed, yeah. The part of it is also the arrangement. If you're going to go this loud, of course you need to OTT stuff, but you also need to make sure that the arrangement works for this kind of loudness. As in, if you have the sub bass play up until the kick, for example, like I said before, the sub bass is going to be extended into that with any filtering that you do, and you're going to lose clarity in the transient of the kick drum. Like here, the kick drum doesn't have punch once again. The genre is hardwave, and yes, I see that. Thank you. And no OTT in the song. Interesting. I assume that this is done with like some clip to zero method then, in terms of mixing it. That's usually what you would go for that kind of loudness. But that should give you a more pristine kind of loudness than what we're hearing here, because the clip to zero method also extends to the way that you arrange a track and the way that you structure a track. So if you take that into account, you write tracks that naturally fit better for this kind of loudness. The sidechain is a bit off. Thanks, I see it. It's not really that it has to do with the sidechain. It has to do with you're making notes longer. And then what you're probably doing somewhere along the line is a filter like this, which a lot of people do. A high pass filter like this, right? Say at 25 Hertz. And this is going to mess up basically everything, because say that your sub is playing through here. This is going to introduce a phase shift to that sub, so it's going to extend and delay that frequency. And therefore it looks like, okay, I'm sidechaining and I'm making sure that it starts chopping out before the kick starts. Because that is what you want. You want the sound to go down in volume and then the kick to play. But because you probably have some kind of filter like this, either in your mix bus or on your master bus, all of the frequencies get extended, mainly around the filter point, so maybe the low frequencies. And because the low frequency oscillation takes so long, it's just going to push that into the kick drum. And basically your entire sidechaining is going to be undone through that. Looks and sounds too limited. Yeah, the point of this track was really to become very, very loud, I think. To be honest, I'm not a fan of how loud this was. I have the 20 Hertz cut on master in the near phase mode. Yeah, then you're going to get pre-ringing. It's much better to, if you have lower frequency rumbles that you need to get rid of, do it on the individual tracks. And you don't need to do that for your kick. You don't need to do that for your sub bass. You don't need to do that for any bass heavy material. And you just basically work around, or you shouldn't ever be in the position where you have problems with phase issues to begin with. And linear phase is definitely one of the ways to get phase issues because of the pre-ringing. And because you're mixing and mastering so loud, that pre-ringing does actually become a problem. Like if you're making sidetrans, you never limit hard enough, or you never clip hard enough for the pre-ringing to actually become audible. But for your type of genre where you're really crushing it, that is going to become more and more of a problem, because the more that you clip, the more that you're turning up that pre-ringing in subsequent stages of the track. It's maybe a little bit hard. Hopefully you understand that. that idea at least. But that is how I would probably do things differently. I wouldn't focus this much on the loudness, and I would focus a little bit more on the musical idea. And if you want this kind of loudness, you need to prepare the arrangement for that. Thank you so much for the info and feedback. It means so much. I will get into it. You're welcome. I think I'm going to end it for today. We've gone through all of the list of submissions, so that's very nice. People have been discussing stuff over here, but I've not kept up. I'll watch that later. The rest is welcome stuff, which is normal. But yeah, I'm going to end the stream here. I think I'm happy with all of the feedback that I've given. I am a little bit tired these days. One of the reasons for that is because we're at the end of allergy season. So what that means is that my throat is getting pretty raspy. And if you're speaking for a long time, that's not necessarily a combination that works really well. Like, I'm really feel my throat right now. So I'm probably going to make myself some tea and honey. Hopefully in a month that won't be a problem anymore. And allergy season will properly be over. But yeah. Anyway, that's going to be it. I hope that you guys enjoyed the feedback, and I hope that you guys enjoyed the stream. I don't think I have already a stream planned, but I'll try to do another stream during the week in which I again explore Bitwig next week. And then maybe I'll be able to do 2 streams. Maybe I'll also be able to do a normal production stream. But I'll have to see. Either way, thank you guys for hanging out, and you guys will see the notification when I go live during the week, and then we'll see each other there. So, see you there.